Hi, everyone. Welcome back to She Asked, Tools for Practical Hope. I'm your host, Anna McBride, and I am so happy you're with us today. This is a space where we take real life experiences and turn them into tools you can actually use, especially when you're navigating change, looking for purpose, and wanting to feel more connected to something bigger than yourself. And today's conversation is really about that, about service, purpose, and how to actually begin. I'm joined by Deborah Koenigsberger, who is the founder and CEO of Hearts of Gold, a New York City-based nonprofit that has supported over 45,000 homeless and low-income single mothers and their children since 1984. And what's so powerful about Deborah's story is that this work didn't come from a strategic plan. It came from a real moment, a real human moment, where she encountered a young mother and her child sleeping in a cardboard box in Madison Square Park and chose to respond. And that moment became a life's work. Before all of this, Deborah had a full career as a model and a stylist, and she still runs her boutique in Manhattan today. But for more than 3 decades, she has been focused on one thing: helping women rebuild their lives through education, job training, and real, tangible support. And what I love about this conversation is that while Deborah has done this on a large scale, the heart of what she teaches is actually very simple. We all have the capacity to be of service. What we just need to know is where to begin. Thank you for joining us today on She Asked, Deborah. I'm so glad you're here.
Hi, Anna. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you. And so we always like to begin our episodes with a story. So please take us back to what first led you to this life of service and what that journey has looked like for you over the years.
Okay. I will say the most important thing about my journey to service is it was almost unconscious because I grew up in a family where that was what my parents did. So it was modeled for me. And even though I rebelled against it and felt teenagers, it just was there. Right. There were just all these moments where my mom was always helping someone, my dad was always helping someone. The door was being knocked on and my parents always responded. And sometimes we're just inconvenienced. But Dad, why don't you finish your dinner first? No, it's okay. I'm going to go help her do this and I'll come back. So it was always very clear to my brother and myself that when somebody asked for help, it was because they needed help. And if they're asking you, it's because they know you have the ability to help them. So that I would say is what this service thing came out of. But the reality and the actuality of Hearts of Gold came out of, as you said, a moment where it's a trifecta, I will call it. One of the part one was meeting this woman. She was 19 years old. She had a 3-year-old daughter, and they were sleeping in Madison Square Park in a cardboard box. Unheard of, insane. That park at the time was a rundown, largely uncared for, not safe, drug-filled kind of space, which now becomes this gorgeous park that it was not at the time. So it was scarier that she was actually there with a young child. 2, I was on vacation with my then baby, 4-month-old baby, at a resort in Florida and met a makeup artist who I reconnected with just because she was like, "Oh, what do you do?" And I told her what I did and she told me what she did. And we decided, she was hoping at the time that we met that something would happen for her by the time, like shortly, within a short amount of time coming back home. And 6 months later, she was in Bergdorf living, and that would be Bobby Brown. And so when I met Bobby, she basically said, "Listen, when I come back to New York, I'm going to come by your store." At the time, again, she was a makeup artist. She was not known. And and you can come visit there's a shelter that I donate time to that I want to introduce you to because maybe you can do some work with the moms in the area of styling and fashion and whatever. So put a pin in that. And we did come back. She did come by my store and we did make this plan that I would go with her to visit the shelter. And as life would have it, the shelter, it turns out, was between my home and my business. I walked past it every day and I had no idea it was there. So that was 2. The most influential thing that happened in my life that actually made me then take steps and start the work was my personal drug of choice, which is Stevie Wonder. And Stevie Wonder is, I take him anywhere I get him intravenously. I'm like, let me put me on my CD dress. His words have always resonated with me, even as a child. And it's really interesting. I don't even know why, but I would sit there and I would write all the words to his songs until I had all the words written down. Then I would sing with him and harmonize to his music. So I grew up in the church, we sang and knew every word to his song. And my mother would always be yelling in the kitchen, stop scratching the record. Because of course, for me to get the words down, I would have to pick up the needle, put it back, pick up the needle, put it back. So Stevie's song, Take the Time Out, I went to 7 nights at Radio City Music Hall in 1994 when he sang that song for that album called Conversation Peace. And that song just kept resonating in my head. It just wouldn't go away. Take the time out to love someone, reach your arms out and touch someone, be it king or some homeless one. We are one underneath the sun. It's a little known song. Most people won't know the song, but I implore you to go and listen to it. It's called Take the Time Out, and it's on the Conversation Peace album. And that song, those words, those lyrics, Stevie, having met him and spoken to him about this now, Stevie doesn't even understand the influence he has. His words to me were, that little song made you do all of that? And it's so humbling because he is, after all, Stevie Wonder. And I'm sure that I am not the only human out here who has influence. And I just took it to the nth degree, but those lyrics really moved me. With that in my backpack, if you will, I got those 3 ideas. I was like, okay, let me see what I can do. And so it started that year. I approached the shelter director where I'd been with Bobby. We did a workshop together. It was amazing. And I saw at the workshop that there were kids and moms. And I said, what is this place? I had no idea of shelter life. I didn't know it existed. I didn't know there was this place where people went. I just didn't know. I grew up in a really small community that was our community of immigrants from the West Indies with my family and whatever. Went to school, walked home. My world was really, when I think about it now, having traveled the world, my world was so small and I really didn't know a lot. And so I was educated about this. Yeah, these women come here, they stay here for X amount of time with their children. They're mostly fleeing domestic violence, but there are all kinds of reasons why people become unhoused and homeless. And once I heard that, I was like, wow, okay. So then I had this idea, which was, okay, for Christmas, let me see, I'll talk to them about what they do at Christmas time. And there were 135 kids and 90 plus moms in the shelter at the time. And they basically said that they had a 99-cent, literally a budget, like $1 per child at Christmas. They would go to the 99-cent store and like just grab things. And then they would do a grab bag and each child would pick out a toy. I was horrified. I was like, that's how Christmas is though. Christmas means something. It is a time when you get 99 gifts, not one gift for 99 cents. So I asked them if I could help with Christmas. They're supposed to right on board. And so I asked for all the kids' names and their ages and their genders and their sizes. And I decided that year that the profit to my business would go to making Christmas happen on a real Christmas scale for the kids in the shelter. I, at the time, was a mother of 2 young boys. So I went all hug. No pun intended, but hug is our acronym for Hearts of Gold. So I decided to get a shopping bag. I would pick 3 toys, a stuffed animal, a book, and whatever else I could in there. Arrived at the shelter, went to the truck, made the bags for the 135 kids. We arrived at the shelter. We catered a meal. I hired a Santa Claus. We had a tree. And I remember so well, we pulled up at the shelter and the director came down and because I needed help to get all the stuff inside. And we opened the back of the truck and she was like, oh my God, what is this? And I said, this, my friend, is Christmas. Oh. And so it went. And we had a beautiful celebration, which was marred by one thing. I thought at the time it was marred, but actually I think it was just another moment within this moment that was like, okay, wow. So I watched this young girl approach her mom to say to her mom, look what I got. She was so excited. And her mother's response was, so what? Ain't nobody done nothing for me. That really hit my soul. I was really like, I had spent weeks preparing all of this stuff and all the shopping and all the whatever. And I thought, oh, that's her response. Fortunately, I came from the parents that I came from. And it was always about what was she really saying? What was the bigger message? And the bigger message was that I've never had that childhood. I don't know how to appreciate it for my own. So, note to self, moved on, had the party, whatever. And then at the time, I did a lot of styling work and appraisal work. And I was doing some work for Ivana Trump, who was a lovely human being who really was so kind. And she at the time had this jewelry line that she was selling online, and she was making a ton of money and selling a lot of jewelry. So I thought, okay, the next holiday, I guess I basically decided that what I would do with Her Bowl was I would mirror it after my life. And that meant that all the holidays that I would celebrate with the moms and the kids. Checking the calendar, Easter was going to be next. So I said, okay, we're going to get Easter baskets for all the kids. I'm going to fill them with the usual. And then we'll get a gift bag for the moms. So I asked Ivana if she would donate a piece of jewelry for each mom, and Bobby would donate makeup. And they both did. And I made these bags. So when the Easter Bunny, of course, because now we have the Easter Bunny, we have all the baskets. It was so much fun running around. We had to buy all these hundreds of baskets, and we had to bought the straw and refill them. It was so beautiful. And the Easter Bunny, again, we catered the meal. And it was just wonderful to see the exchange with the moms and the kids, and everybody was taken care of. And it reminded me of the magnet on my mother's refrigerator, which said, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. And here we were. Mama was happy. And so Hearts of Gold basically came out of that. And that's how I decided what this would look like going forward. In short order, it got very expensive. And I reeled in my two best friends, one from high school, Wild People, one from college, Jack Indian. I said, okay, guys, I'm doing something and I just need you to support me, whatever. And they were like, okay, whatever you need. And now 32 years later, they'll say, yep, she just basically called us and said, write me a check, which we did. And we didn't know what she was doing, but it didn't really matter. And Hearts of Gold, really, the story began.
Wow. What a great story. When I think about it at its essence, it was responding to what was right in front of you and literally in your backyard or front yard. And you found a way to be of service, not only to that mother and child, but also to the greater community within that unhoused shelter for mothers and children. It's incredible.
Let me just add about the mom and the child in the park, because I approached them after a couple of days just to ask her what her situation was and why she's in the park. I got my nerve up and was like, I need to talk to her. And she basically said, I'd been molested at home. I went into a shelter. I was further molested in the shelter, and I am now going to take my chance on the street. I don't care. I'm okay out here with my baby.
Wow.
Really, that pierced, really, that was because especially a scenario like that. So she's not even safe in her own home. And in my life, growing up with my family, I cannot think of a moment ever where my only option would have been the earth, the dirt. There's an aunt, there's a cousin, there's somebody in that community that would take you in and take care of you. So that was a real shocker for me. And then one day I went back and I brought her food consecutively days. And then one day I went back and she left. She was gone. I never saw her again, but she lives in my soul, and she powers, just knowing her, she powers this work that I do. And I always say, I know somewhere out there she made it with her daughter. I know somewhere they got safe and they got figured out.
Yeah. Wow. What a powerful symbol she was,
Yeah.
and motivator for you to get into service. I too was raised by parents who were quick to service. And I think when you're raised in that mindset, whether you want to or not, service finds you.
And it grabs the hold of you and it does not let go.
Does not let go. That's right.
Yeah.
Now, in our earlier conversation, you said something that really stayed with me, that people want to help. They just don't always know how. Why do you think so many people feel called to service, but don't take that first step?
I believe as human beings, we do understand that no man is an island, that we're not here like drifting along alone. We're not just some log out there drifting aimlessly. I believe that people actually know that. Okay, knowing something and doing something are very different things.
Right.
But there are a lot of people who actually know that, and it crosses their mind because you see it in everyday life and they think, oh my God, that's so sad, or this is such a bad situation. In their minds and in their hearts, they know that this exists, this injustice, this pain, this heaviness, this depression, this whatever. But they're like, they're in heaven. I can't fix it. But what am I going to do? I can't fix it. And it can be very overwhelming. But I think what I found out is I never started out to impact 40,000 plus mothers and children. I started out just thinking I was giving food to one person and a child, one mom and a child. From that, it grew to the shelter and those kids. And you go along, because when passion grabs a hold of you, like we said, it does not let go. And you don't even realize it. You just go out, it becomes your life. It becomes what feeds your soul. I think that most people out there in the world want something good to happen. They don't know which vessel to take. They don't know what to get on board with. There's so much choice. There's so much confusion. There's so much noise. And to get to the quiet and say, okay, this is something that means something to me. That is a thing. Because people say to me all the time, did you come from homelessness? Why did you start this organization? And I said, I not only never came from homelessness, but I didn't know what homelessness was. But I came from a family that was grounded in empathy and love thy neighbor. And when I was a child, I had to read the Bible to my grandmother every night before she went to bed. Me and my brother would stand by her bed and read the Bible. I was indoctrinated in that way. And the stories, and my name is from this Bible story. And my name stands for this high priestess who was the one judge that the men would actually listen to or seek out her advice. And so my growing up, my grandmother would say, you have a big name to live up to. So we were still feel big. But I never meant anything to me. I never thought about it. Later in my life, I read the story and I was like, oh, okay, this is what she had by the big name. But I think that whatever it is that moves you, whether you see on television a little story and it sparks something in you, whatever that thing is, I would challenge you to not find a way to help in your community and in your own life, because it's there.
Okay. Yeah. You mentioned vessel, and you said begin to identify the right vessel for you.
Yes.
And whether that's time, talent, or resources, right? So how do you think someone can identify that?
So for anybody running a nonprofit, our words to live by are time, treasure, talent, the 3 T's, right? Time means you are someone with a busy life and you are going to eke out moments or whatever to pay attention, to give time to something, right? So that could be mentoring someone, or that could be dropping into a community center, or that could be if you are spiritually involved in your community somewhere. Putting time, physically saying, okay, I've got 2 hours. What can I do? How can I help? Time. Treasure, we all know, is about it's what we deal in, right? So money, everything costs something. So we need people with treasure, because without them, the dreams remain dreams and they don't get realized. And when I have a mom I have my mom this past week, just a few days ago, I had to fill up, we call her first pantry, because 4 kids coming out of domestic violence, bad domestic violence, like a crazy case. 4 kids, the smallest of whom is a little girl who's on the autistic spectrum. When I tell you that woman is trying everything and showing up for everything to be there for her kids, even in spite of what's been done to her, but she has nothing. She literally left with the clothes on her back and their backs when she finally left the situation. And she's been in shelter, and now she's about to move. First Pantry is going to provide her with everything she needs to build up First Pantry, because one of the things in talking to moms over these 32 years, you find out where are you stuck? What is something that, you really feel like you need and you wish yourself for? And people talk about pantries in community neighborhoods, and they're amazing, and I'm glad they exist. When you're a mother and you move into your home finally, and the truck shows up and you have whatever 4 pieces of furniture you have moving in there, you can't make a first meal for your family. This is First Pantry. So we give them all the possible spices they could need. She left with enough mac and cheese and a 25-pound bag of rice. And we created, during COVID, a recipe booklet. And the idea was, because of what was going on and lack of food and shortages and whatever, during COVID, I worked every day to supply these goods to the moms in the shelters. And I realized that, okay, so if I give them tuna fish, they can make a sandwich. But if I give them a recipe, they can make a pasta dish. So I can give them tuna fish, olive oil, onion powder, garlic powder, and they can make a warm meal pasta because they don't know how to do that. It doesn't occur, right? So simple steps to making like hearty meals that feed you and that are delicious and healthy. So we give them that, and we filled her up, literally. I gave her everything from laundry detergent to sugar to tea to, like I said, pasta sauce. There's so much stuff in there, to the tune of $800 worth of groceries for her pantry. She will not look for breakfast, oatmeal, like all these. It'll take a couple of weeks for her food stamps to kick back in. And she's actually off this because of the SNAP benefits that was because she's been really hurt. She's got 4 kids and she has been like not knowing where food is coming from the next moment. So now she has all of this and she's going to move in and she's going to fill that pantry and she's going to exhale because anybody who's a mother out there or if you're human, hunger is a thing, right? So when you are hungry,
Right.
you can't think past being hungry. And imagining children, they're 14, 11, 7, and 3. Imagining children not having the ability to just open a refrigerator or have a snack or whatever, it makes me crazy. That keeps me up at night. I can't do that. So that means to me that they're okay. And then we get them to bed, we help them figure out the rest. But that first pantry. So I think that treasure allows us to do that because I can want it all I want. But if I go into any of the supermarkets or the trade days or the BJs or wherever I go, and I tell them a story, they're going to say, great, no, where's your credit card? Because that's the world we live in.
Right.
And we can't expect businesses to absorb that. So that's first pantry. So that's treasure. Talent is a really big one. So let's say you are a marketing person, right? And you can come to us and say, okay, I've got time. How can I help you? Help us get out there. We're trying to figure out, we need more grants. We need more resources. Help us market what we do so that people know we exist. And that talent, I've had cases where lawyers have fought battles for us, for moms, and won. Accountants have helped mom get out of whatever financial disaster she's been exposed to. And mostly teaching her about finances because she doesn't even know. She didn't even know what she didn't know. And then I have people who are like in retail, and they're like, oh, can I come help at the store? Absolutely, you can come volunteer any day of the week. We have a thrift vintage store on West 25th Street, which is now 2 blocks from where I started Hearts of Gold 32 years ago. Because I'm in fashion, I have a women's clothing boutique, I have the thrift, and I have the vintage, and I have the charity. So volunteering anytime is a great thing. We love interacting with people. I have a group that has volunteered their time to go and read bedtime stories to the kids. We have ways for humans to show up as humans. We're a small charity, so we don't have thousands of kids and people to show up for, but volunteerism is really appreciated in our world. And sometimes people just say, you know what, I want to have a cocktail party for you in my apartment, and I'm going to invite some friends, and let's talk to them about this, and let's help you raise some funds. So even though you might not have the funds, you have the ability, you have a vessel that you can use to bring other people on board to help us. So those are the 3 T's, and they're super important to any charity.
Wow. What a great plan and a great way to give people tools, like they can access any one of those to create something as well as to be a part of service. And it sounds so simple, but it's really not complicated. When you break it down for us that way, I think when we think about examples, there are ways that any one of us can be of service. So let's talk about being close to home, right? Doing it close to home. I think a lot of people assume they need to do it on a much grander scale, right? Globally, nationally, to be of impact. What are some ways people can begin being of service within their own communities?
Okay, so for example, I started at a shelter that was on 28th Street. I lived at 32nd Street. The shelter was on 28th Street. My business was on 23rd Street. Talk about community. It's right there. In all of our communities, there are places where manpower, hard power is needed, period. You can do some research, especially now. Call up Claude. Hey, Claude, I'm looking for some volunteer work in my neighborhood. Siri, whoever you speak to in the AI, and you can uncover and discover ways to help. You can find things that are near and dear to you. If you are volunteer for an after-school program, if you're an artist and you want to teach kids to do art, volunteer in your community center. All of these places exist. I always believe in starting in your own backyard because I think one of the problems we face in this country is one of real hypocrisy. We're always pointing our finger. We're always saying, over there, they're doing this and we need to fix it. I am of the mindset that right here, there's this going on and we need to fix it. It begins on the road you live on, in your small town, in your larger city, in your community. It begins with you. When you finally take a step to do something, you will see change. You will see positive change happen. And you don't need to go across the world. Again, I said I never started this to do what I'm doing now. But somehow, once you get in, you're like, okay, I get it. And service and serving others is one of the most gratifying things that you could do in your life. I
Wow.
always wonder how we got so mean-hearted that we forget that why we're here. So it's all about me, and just look outside of yourself for a minute.
Yeah.
We live in a society that's become so much about ourselves. I'm
Mm.
in my store all day long and I watch these young people, they come in, they're in the mirror 75,000 times. They're doing a selfie, they're doing more pictures. It's just so centered around them, who they are, what they need to be doing right now about themselves. And if you just turn that camera the other way and look outside at the world, your world, whether it's in class and somebody's being bullied, help some child out, whether it's again in your community, whatever, there are families in need and who are suffering, and humans and elderly people who would love you to come read a story to them, like in a nursing home, like whatever it is. I'm telling you that, and I guarantee you this, and I challenge anyone to prove me wrong, that wherever you live and wherever you stand and wherever you go to bed at night, in that space and place, there is someone who could use your love, your support, your heart.
Oh, I love that. I love that. You're right. You always think local. You don't have to think globally,
Yeah,
right?
and then if you're fortunate enough to be have some supporters that have the means and the whatever to support on a larger scale, great, please do it. But
Right.
look in your backyard. Or if something is just you're not finding that thing that you're passionate about that's in your backyard, it's fine. Go find the other thing. But I just think that it makes it easier for people if it's within reach, if it's within your stomping grounds or your beaten path or whatever, to just get involved.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Why complicate it? It's
Yeah.
really what's right in front of you. So you built something very meaningful with the Hearts of Gold organization that you created. Can you share a bit about what the work you're doing, more about that, and what it makes so impactful for the people you serve?
I get these messages from these moms and text messages and whatever. And I'm not somebody who sits around and thinks about things for a long time. I jump in all the time. I jump into the pool. I realize just as I leapt into that pool and I landed, that I don't know how to swim. And I got to get to that other side. So that's my MO, which is not great, trust me. But I always end up figuring it out, right? Because I just see something and I respond to it immediately. Hearts of Gold, the work of Hearts of Gold is to just empower these women to understand, because it's first about confidence. When somebody's been like beating the crap out of you for a long time, you have no self anything, self worth, self confidence, self anything. Some some of those women, it's not just a partner or spouse. They come out of homes where that's been happening, whether it's their father or their mother or stepfather or whatever, where the abuse is coming from home. It's very hard to believe that you can do anything and be anything in that environment, right? So having mom understand that this is just a moment in your life, it is not your life. And unless you decide this is your life, it will not be your life. So in this moment where you find yourself right now, whether it's 6 months in a shelter or you're in a shelter, it's you at your low, but you will rise. And here are some ways to rise and just help you understand that I don't know anybody in my world, whether they're billionaires and I have those two, or somebody who's just getting by every day who hasn't had a tough spot, right? Everybody
Right.
gets it. You don't get through this without those moments, without those tough times. And so you have to kind of bootstraps and you go, okay, or you can sit and wallow in it and be in it forever. I've never had the luxury of that. I grew up in, if you want it done, you work and you get it done. That is my mindset. And so that's all I have to share. I'm like, nope, don't believe that's not true. Watch you change that. Watch how you can change that. Look at God. Look at what He has in store for you. Like, hear what I'm telling you. This is possible. And watching a mom go from, I have this one mom who, there's so many stories over these many years, but I'll tell you about Laura, whose mother told her she could be nothing. She wasn't worth anything. So all she was good for was to go have babies. Laura was 18, living in the projects in Brooklyn, of Irish and Italian descent. So they're all not Black, they're all not minorities, they're all not immigrant Mexicans, whatever you think. They are Americans born here. And so her mother was an alcoholic, her father, drugs, whatever. She was raised in a 2-bedroom apartment with 4 other sisters, and they had nowhere. And then they started having the babies that the mother predicted they should go have. And the babies picking up car seats off the street to have the babies sleep in their apartment, right? Because there were no beds. Where you going with all these kids and all this shit? So when I met Laura, she was in shelter because she'd been running away from the then sad boyfriend who, for whom she was pregnant with a 3rd child and didn't want, and was trying to abort the child himself by kicking her in the stomach during the pregnancy. So She goes out of craziness. Her mother, no good, no use, nothing to tell her, nothing to help. Sister is the same. So she finally goes into shelter. She runs away. I meet her in shelter, pregnant with this third child. And I met her because we used to do monthly birthday parties. And so it was her son's first birthday party. And of course, he was one of the birthday kids we were celebrating. And I got a call a few weeks later saying, oh my God, from one of the shelter workers saying, we need to talk to you about this one mom. And I had met her and I'd met her son and we all celebrated, but she said, there's a big problem. Turns out that child had somehow, not sure what happened or what he swallowed or whatever, but he ended up in a comatose state. He had some kind of seizure. Got into the hospital, there was nothing they could do. He didn't die, but he was basically brain dead. And they were going to see what they could do. He was 1 year old. So she's now pregnant with a third child. Now she has this 1 year old, and then she has the 3-year-old. And she was my big challenge, right? Because she's decided that unless God gives her back this 1 year old, she doesn't care about the child inside and she doesn't care about anything else. Really long story with a lot of winding roads and a lot of ups and downs. But the shelter, because it was 3 blocks from my store, I would have her come to the store every day. I would feed her, I would make her eat. I would feed the 3-year-old and I got her, they had put her son out all the way out on Long Island in a facility. And so she'd get up in the morning at the crack of dawn, take herself and the 3-year-old, get on a bus, train, whatever, head out to Long Island and sit there all day long praying at the bedside of this child. So that was her life. So I said, okay, here's what we can do. Using all the talent that my friends had and the time that I could get from the other people and treasure, was able to move him to a Manhattan-based facility. So now he was on 6th Avenue and 17th Street at the Family Hospital, and she could go see him all day long. And it wasn't compromising the 3-year-old who was dragged at whatever hour in the morning. She had to get up and take him out there. So now I'm feeding her, I'm making sure she eats, I'm making sure that she's okay, that the little guy is okay. He comes to me every day and he called me Titi. They call me Titi. And Titi, I said, okay, then are we hungry? Yeah, Titi, what do you want to eat today? Rice and beans. So I used to take him to this one little store down the block and we'd get him his food and he would eat. Laura then went from that to me literally going with her. It's a whole crazy story about getting the police involved and sirening her to the hospital to give birth to this baby. And another friend of mine who was on my board showing up that night to help deliver this baby at the hospital, right? He's born, but he was blue and the doctors were working really hard. And I had never prayed so hard before or since in my life or something, because that baby did not look like he was going to make it. But all of a sudden he cried and that was that. So he's alive. To help her then get from that point to understanding that this other child, Jonathan, is not, he's not coming back in a way that he was, but that she had the power to do all kinds of things. Finally, she starts going to school. She's getting amazing grades. And all of this is literally, I'm in her daily life. And I have bed whenever she needs to go do something. And she starts going to school and she starts getting grades. And she's calling me, go, Titi, I got an A on that test. I go, yeah, you did. And she said to me one day, you were the only person that ever told me that I was smart enough to succeed. Laura went through nursing school. She was so smart, but nobody ever told her she could do it. Nobody gave her the power to believe in herself. The exact opposite was true. I have a story in my life that was like that. I had an aunt, I use that word very loosely, who basically told me at the age of 10 that I would be nothing. I would have 13 kids. I wouldn't even know who the fathers were. And I think as I grew up and understood, like her words, really, I thought, why did a 10-year-old know that wasn't going to be my life? I was pretty sassy when I was a kid. And I was like, whatever. And she, to say those words to a 10-year-old child, you know what I'm saying? But I always think of her, and it powers me in a different way because I think that's never going to be my life. And I tell these moms, listen, don't drink the Kool-Aid. People are going to say all kinds of crazy things to you in your life. And I am an example of that. It doesn't have to be. So got her, finally, I married her. I got her, gave her hand in marriage to this young man she met, and they had more kids. Moved to Florida, lives in Florida with her kids. She just bought a $500,000 house last year. And from when I say 0 to $1 million, she is, and I used to say to her, I'm the immigrant. Why do you have 7 jobs? Because She then decided that she was going to be a notary, right? So she's notary. She wanted to have her own business. So she does taxes and she is now in school to be an accountant. She does not stop. And she
Wow.
fighting that thing that said to her, the voice in her head that said, you can't do anything but this. And I keep saying to her, you don't have to prove yourself anymore, my love. You're there. She goes, oh, I know, but I'm really interested in this. But I think the voice that drives her is that still that voice that drives me that said I was going to be 10 and nothing and she was going to be nothing.
Wow.
Interesting how you live those things out without even realizing.
Yeah. Wow. You mentioned you were impacting them. They were obviously, she particularly was impacting you. And I've heard everything is like a mirror, a symbol, or a metaphor for us. And she mirrored that part of you that just knew that there was
Yep.
going to be something better
Yep.
and no one was going to tell you no. And she just needed to meet you, another version, to help pull her through that. So incredible. So incredible. Now, something that really struck me about how real this work is that example, right? Of how someone has to attend to their circumstances and get up early and take that trip out to go take care of the other child. What have you learned about compassion and flexibility through doing this work?
I think that I brought, by the nature of being raised where I was, I brought compassion to the work because I'd been taught it. And I never, may God rest both my parents' souls, that word was never spoken in my house, ever, compassion. It was just mirrored. And
Mm.
you see something happening, you don't even understand what, it is, but you see it and you see the effect it has and you understand, huh, okay. And I think that compassion was fostered in me. I think that flexibility came from watching my parents. My mother knew how to take $1 and make five out of it every minute of every day. She had no choice. That's what immigrants do. That's what they did. It's how she got us all through. And being flexible, you cannot be rigid because she had to do whatever she had to do to get through. So she came here by herself. At that time, America had a immigration policy that made sense. And there was a structure to it. And it was, you came, you were obligated to show that you could take care of. It was called sponsoring. So my mom came, she sponsored my dad by way of showing that her work, she earned enough to be able to, so that he didn't come here and live off the system. When they both got here and they both worked, they sponsored my brother and I, and they had to prove also that they could take care of us. So I think I only wish we could resurrect that in this country because it worked. It wasn't broken. It wasn't broken. And you landed here and you knew you had your right to be here and you were part of the fabric of something that made this country. So that's the ultimate immigrant story. I
Yeah.
knew my mother would, whether she had to be a nanny or she had to sleep in. My mother, in Jamaica, dogs don't even enter your house, never mind sleep in your bed. And when my mom got her first job as I guess an au pair she lived in, that family was like, that's where the dog sleeps. So my mother had to sleep next to a dog in that bed, even though it was her biggest nightmare. And just, she didn't understand. But she was like, okay, I'm going to do X for X amount of time and then I'm out of here. And being flexible in just like even teaching us things and saying, okay, there is always a window open. And if it's not fully open, go pry it open. The door is closed. You can find a way into that room. And that's what I understood from my mom. I understood that from my mom and from my dad. There was always like a way to fix things. And I practice it every day. And always like my mind goes to, oh, okay, we need to get this thing across the street and it's way too heavy. And I just go to that place and it's organic. People always say to me, why do you know how to do that? And I always say, because I was raised with my parents.
Yeah.
Nobody ever said, ever in my family, that failure was an option. There was no
Oh,
such thing.
girl, I tell you, I know the story. My mother was also an immigrant, and though she married American, she was always abiding by the policy of who has been given much.
To whom much has
You
been given, much is expected. Yep.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. And so she was always finding ways to sponsor people and help them
Yeah.
live a better life because she found her way. And she always abided also by resilience. Do not take no for an answer. There's
World.
always a way to be of service, always a way through. And so I have that energy as well, like knowing that even if it's hard, even if it's difficult, that there is a way. You may not see it right away, but it's there. It's
And
there.
take one with you. Take one along. You know what? Just take one
Yes, take
along.
one along. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. I love that. I love that. All right. So you also shared that funding is a big part of your service. And I know from our earlier conversation that it has shifted and you had to adapt. Okay. So what has it been like to sustain this work over time and what keeps you going even when it's challenging?
Determination. Determination is my first, middle, and last name. I will not be thwarted. I've said to people, if tomorrow it is the will and I end up only being able to help 4 people, then I will help those 4 people. Like for me, this only ends one way. It ends with me in a box. When I'm done and I'm done, that's when I'll be done. But until then, this work, it means so much to me to see and live the story of a boy who we came from a mom who didn't have anything at all. And she never went past neither of my parents went past grammar school, basically. They were in middle school, I guess the equivalent of middle school, but nobody went to high school. They just learned things as they went. Being able to take a child from newborn, literally when he was born in the hospital, came to my apartment because his sister, who was then a 5-year-old, stayed with us while the mom went in to have the baby, came to my apartment. And then to take him 18 years later on an airplane to Iowa to set him up in college and take him to the big old Walmart and run the aisles and go, okay, you need this for your room and you need this, just like I did for my kids. And to see Jordan being in college and thriving and wanting to break that cycle, not even wanting to broken the cycle, the cycle. His mother did not have that education. If you can have that kind of impact on anything, but especially human life, please do it. It's so necessary. It's so not hard to do.
Yes.
It's so not hard to do because it costs you nothing. Yes, I had funding, right? I was able to get on the plane. I was able to get him to Iowa. I was able to get him all the things he needed for his room and whatever, and help him with gift cards so he would have food, so he could actually have a normal life in college and not be like, okay, the kids are going to McDonald's and I don't have $5, just to help him figure out until he got his campus job. If you just understand that we are meant to walk side by side, we're meant to walk side by side, and that you, by virtue of having 2 legs, you are meant to walk side by side to somebody. Let's figure that out. If we can figure that out as humans, we will, this heaven is here on earth, as Tracy Chapman says, heaven's here on earth. And watch, you can bring joy. If you can stir up and bring forth joy in somebody's human experience, you've paid your way for being here. You've paid the rent for being here today.
Now, I know funding is such a big part of this, and you mentioned previously that you had to write your first grant for your organization and evolving with that. So what has this new chapter taught you about growth, especially after doing this work for so many years?
You always have to reinvent yourself and find a new way to do things. You're always looking for, I'm always trying to meet someone who is going to say, what kind of bless the work. And you bless the work by allowing us to continue the work. And I've been very fortunate in my life to have people who donated and continue to donate to us. But we lost a lot of funding because donors move on. They do other things. And especially during the COVID time, we lost a lot of big funding because people left New York. And when they left New York, they took their money with them and they're now supporting where they live, which makes complete sense, right? Talk about in your backyard. So we've had to be creative about finding ways to, so we do fundraisers, we're online we ask people to, if you can afford $25 a month, please do a recurring monthly donation. If you can afford 100, if you can write a check for whatever amount, please understand that money is, when I go to do all of this food shopping and stuff, right? I remember during COVID, one of the moments that struck me the most was I had bought a bag of apples to give to as part of the packaging that I was giving to the moms of food. And this mom came with her little guy. He was like probably 2.5, 3 years old. And so I was putting stuff in the bag, and I had the bag of apples, and he grabbed the bag of apples, just holding up the bag of apples. And I was like, okay. And I was trying to share apples. The bag probably had 15 apples, and I was going to 5 by 5. And he just took that bag of apples and he hugged it. He hugged the bag of apples. And I thought, this is going to break me or make me. I didn't even know what to do with this. But I couldn't take the bag of apples from him. But I said to him, if you let me open it, I can give you one to eat. And he ate that apple so voraciously. And that mom left with that bag of apples. And you understand, a bag of apples, maybe it was $6 at Trader Joe's. So there are no small donations. No donation is too small. The gut-wrenching sadness of watching a 3-year-old hug a bag of apples is a whole other problem. But at that moment, being able to say yes to that bag of apples. Similarly, so Jordan needed a computer for a laptop to go away to school. So it ranges. At back to school time, we give each child a backpack, grade appropriate, filled with everything they need so they can be like everybody else. We give them the coolest backpack. We want to motivate them. We want to excite them for the first day of school. So the backpacks are not like we buy 100 of this backpack. I look for backpacks. I'm like, oh, that's funny. That has buttons on it. Oh, she'll be so cute in this. And we imagine ourselves.
Very thoughtful.
Yeah, we imagine ourselves as those moms, as those kids, and we give them what we'd like for our own. Wow. So all of this takes funds. Manna from heaven is a story in the Bible. Mm-hmm. Manna that's given to me from heaven is that so I can eat every day and have the energy to do this work. It's not falling in kind of Staples so I can buy back to school supplies. So understand that your dollars go really far with us because we are very conscious of just budget and that these things, but they cost money. They cost money. And anyone that stops for a minute to just acknowledge that and say, hey, here's this because I can afford to, it's the best gift you can give. Just of yourself and knowing that you're changing a life by writing that check. I have people who send me $18. Now, for somebody to send me $18 and I get so excited about it, think about what it must mean to send $18. You're living on a budget. That is tight for you. That is huge. Whether you are the person who can give 18 or the person who give 18,000, whatever you're doing in your capacity, people always say, I'm sorry, I wish I could give more. And I say, don't curse your blessings. You get what you get. All of it counts and all of it matters.
So it sounds like the growth that came from the need to find new funding is to become more resourceful.
You do. Determination is all about, okay, I can't do it that way. Let me find another way. And wrote and were granted Gibson our first real grant, as in start to finish, cold calling, not knowing, although the organization reached out to us, not having to do that work. Okay. And you, of course, when you have these kind of pockets of money, it frees you up to do more work because I'm spending time doing an event that's going to raise me maybe $10,000. But if I have somebody that gives me a $10,000 check, I can go into the shelter and work with the families more because I have the resources. You know what I'm saying? So it's like constantly we're balancing, we're juggling. Everything matters and every dollar goes far. And just to your point about finding a way to keep going, I don't have options. I have people that I've pledged my support to and I've promised to help. And that means what that means. So when I get up in the morning, I'm super grateful that I got to get up in the morning because I keep going, I can do work. And that means I get to serve again today. And that is the biggest gift. And it's just, And I wish for people and hope for them that they find this within themselves. Like, I hope that they feed it. It's already there. You just need to feed it, nurture it, because it'll blossom. And that thing your heart will beat and you'll feel it. It's a feeling and it's an amazing feeling.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's definitely a great feeling. So speaking of events, I'd love for you to share about what's coming up because you're having something really exciting happening on Earth Day. So can you tell us about that upcoming Earth Day event and how people can get involved or support it?
Yes. So it's called Fashion and Philanthropy. Ooh. I'm in the fashion industry, of course, and so are a lot of my friends. And so this is our 5th annual. So 5 years ago, we decided to do an event because, as I mentioned, we have a thrift vintage store. And so we always need donations. We need gems for that store, right? So people come in and they'll go, oh my gosh, my grandmother passed away and she has this little pin, which is just this gorgeous little ivory, whatever, and we want to donate to you. And we use that to raise funds, of course, right? We sell it and then the funds go. We also use the space that we're in as a job training space for moms and kids, moms and adult kids, work age kids. They come in, they work, they get their salary. And that's how, so that little pin brooch brought money to pay the mom's salary to put up. So it's all linked. Fashion and Philanthropy it's over 2 days. On the 21st and the 22nd. The 22nd is Earth Day, and we're tied to it because of sustainability. And our sustainability is important to all of us. We know what's going on with the planet. It is not a hoax. It is real. We know that we have to do something to start to lessen our footprint here. And in order to do that, we need the conversation to keep going. So we do our sustainability event around education. So day one, we are blessed enough to have Soledad O'Brien, who is going to moderate a panel for us on fashion and philanthropy. And we have amazing panelists who are in doing the work of sustainability work, whether it's in the beauty industry or the fashion industry or even with water. And so there's a panel discussion, there are bites and sips. You'll come see what the space is all about. And it's really fun. So and we have prizes and little auction items and so on. On day two, we have, and so the philanthropy part is fill a little bag, whatever it is, with something you'd like to look in your closet, say this one belt that you haven't worn in 2 years, bring it along, donate it, right? So bring those gems on that day and help to fill the store with merchandise. Day two, we have a fashion show, which is like the highlight of our fashion philanthropy. Carlton Jones is a Black designer here who has been recently acknowledged and recognized in the fashion industry in a big way. And he's been on this journey it's myself, a woman named Constance White, who was former fashion editor for the New York Times, and myself. So the three of us put on this event every year. It's always in my space. And we do the 2-day event culminates in this beautiful fashion show from spring, summer that Carlton will show. And we'll have some vintage pieces in there as well. And we have a book I'm one of the authors in a book called Today is the Day, Live It. And it's all about change makers. And we're 32 change makers, and we all have our chapter in that book. So we're doing a book signing also on that day, and you can buy the book. And of course, all the money from that will go to the charity as well. You could also just buy the book. You would have to buy it for us for it to count. If you buy it's on Amazon and everywhere else, but if you buy it from us, like I have the books for sale at the store, then the money goes to that. And we'll have, again, sips and bites. And it's a really fun event. And it's our 5th year, and we are super excited. So tickets are on sale on the website, heartsofgold.org. Please join us. It'll be so fun. And just go on and grab a ticket. We have 2-day passes or 1-day pass, and come have a good time with us. You will not regret it.
Wonderful. And so for our listeners, I want you to know that we're going to include all of this information on how you can get tickets to this event, as well as help support the Hearts of Gold organization in our show notes. So for someone listening right now, Deborah, who feels inspired but still unsure where to begin, what's one small step that they can take this week to start being of service in their own life?
I think if you can identify, if you're listening and this resonates with you, that means you're already there. You already know that you want to do something about something. And whatever that something is, do the research now. Go online. It's so much easier now with AI and whatever than it was for me. So don't jump on it. Don't let it sit for another moment. Just act. It will then become its own thing. It really does. And don't overwhelm yourself. Don't promise too much and under-deliver. Start small. Start where you can, right? If you know you have an hour, don't say, I'm going to come for 4 hours, and then you can't do it. Just be true with yourself. Be real with yourself and see what you can do. And then in taking it in steps and biting off what you can chew, you'll have success. So I think the first step is just to identify that thing that's burning in you that goes, oh my gosh, you know what? If you love animals, there's a pet shelter. It depends on what is it that makes your heart beat and makes you happy. So I would hope that some words in this whole conversation resonated with you. And if that is the case, then don't let it sit. Because with time, you mull it over and you think, I don't really know if I can do it. Just act because you already clearly want to.
Great. This has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for joining us and for being here and providing so much insight to our listeners while doing so much for the broader community. So we mentioned your organization. Say it one more time where they can find you.
www.heartsofgold.org. So here are the ways you can support. You can donate to the street. You can come shop, because when you shop in the space, of course, that's where the money goes. And we have, our motto is Gap to Gucci, and we have everything in between, literally. We get beautiful donations. Designers love us, so they donate new things as well, like Kate, Coach. They're designers that donate to us. So you can find amazing things in our store to buy. You can, we're always, our latest, greatest, whatever we're doing is always online. So if you follow us, that would be great. Followers, as you all know out there, are important, the number of followers you have. And what's interesting for me writing this grant, because they also ask for your website to check your followers. So if nothing else today, please go on and follow us at Hearts of Gold, at TTH Vintage Boutique, which is the name of the store. And those numbers, algorithms take those numbers and do whatever.
Absolutely.
But please follow us. And and we'd love to meet any and all of you. Just jump by the store. We're closed on Mondays, important to know. We're open Tuesday to Sunday. And it's a fun environment. We all have a good time there.
Wonderful. Thank you. And we'll include all that information in our show notes. And to everyone listening, if something in this conversation resonated with you, I invite you to take one small step. It doesn't have to be perfect, and it doesn't have to be big. It just has to be real. If you enjoyed this episode, please start to subscribe, share it with someone you love, and leave a review. It helps us to continue these conversations. And if you're looking for support in your own journey, whether it's finding purpose, navigating change, or reconnecting with yourself, you can always reach out. I am here to help. And until next time, you've been listening to She Asks, Tools for Practical Hope. I'm your host, Anna McBride, and until soon, be well.